So I'm going to launch the SQL Server Management Studio, and I do have it on my taskbar, so all I would need to do is left click on that. If you don't have it on the taskbar, you can use the search, and of course my search box is in my other monitor, but in the search you just type SSMS, and then you should see it at the top of the panel. I'm going to go ahead and just click on this. And I'm going to connect, and I'm just using Windows authentication. And it should automatically load the database files that are attached. And remember, if you want to use a database and you don't see it, you can right-click and attach the database. What we're going to be doing is using the new query window. So I'm going to click on that. And everything that you are going to need to turn in can actually be entered right in this window. So I'm going to start out with a comment. And to create a comment, it's just a slash and an asterisk. And we're going to key in task 1. Actually, let's key in your name first. So you're going to key in your own name. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in task number 1. Now, doing comments this way actually will allow you to create a multi-line comment. So instead of doing the slash, asterisk, and asterisk slash at the end of the line, I could have done it just like this. Okay. So either way is fine. You know, if you like it to look balanced, you can put the slash, asterisk, asterisk, slash, you know, on each line, or you can do it this way. Does not matter to me how you key in your comments. Comments will be ignored when you run your query. So it is a good idea to put in comments for documentation and that type of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter. And at this point, we are ready to do our first query. And our task is to use our AP database. So we're going to use the use command. And we're going to say use AP. Okay? And because that is a complete command, we're putting a semicolon on the end. So now we're telling it, look in the AP database, and we want to display basically everything that's in the invoices table. So if we expand AP and we expand tables, we can take a look at how invoices is spelled. And when we tell it the table name, we do not have to use the DVO prefix. So to see everything that's in that invoices table, we're going to use a select, and we're going to say select, and to tell it all columns, we're going to do an asterisk. And now we've said show me all the columns, and we're going to key in from invoices. Okay, so we want to see all the columns from the invoices table. Now at this point, our command is complete because we're not going to do any sorting or filtering. So I'm going to put in the semicolon. And I'm also going to run the command. So to run the command, I'm just going to click on execute. You will notice when I point here that you can also press the F5 key. And our results should display. And you'll notice that the results pane can be resized. You want to see more. Okay, but that is our first command. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out this first command. So I'm just going to take the ending comment here and move it down. Okay, and you'll notice that comments display in green. So that's part of how you can tell if something is commented out. It's for select statements, it would let you do multiple selects at the same time. There are other commands where it doesn't like that. And we're just going to go ahead and keep ours separate. So our next little exercise that we're going to do is we're going to be querying that same invoices table, but this time instead of displaying all of the columns, we only want to display the invoice number, the invoice date, and the invoice total. We also want to sort the result set by the invoice total, and we want that in descending order, which will put the largest amounts at the top. So again, we're going to say use AP, and we're going to do the select. And this time we're going to tell it the 3 columns that we want to see. Now, in order to get those column names correctly, I am going to expand invoices and I'm going to expand columns. And that shows me all of the column names. So I make sure that I key them in correctly. So we want the invoice number, which is the invoice ID. We also want the invoice date. And we want the invoice total. Okay, so those are the 3 columns we want to retrieve. And right now it is flagging them as misspelled because we haven't told the Management Studio which table we want to use. So on the next line, I'm going to say from invoices, and I'll press enter. And you'll notice that those little squiggly lines are going to go away because now it knows what table to look in for these columns. So we've selected our 3 columns, we've told it the table. We still need to tell it that we want to sort by the invoice total in descending order. So we're going to say order by, and we're going to order by invoice total, and we want to do that in descending order. Okay, and that is the end of our command, so I'm going to put in a semicolon. And I'm going to go ahead and execute. And just as a quick double check, make sure you only have the 3 columns you asked for, and when you look at the invoice total, you should notice that it is organized from the largest down to the smallest. So at this point, we are done with our second select. I'm going to take the closing comment and I'm going to move that down. And I'll press enter a couple times and I'm moving on to our third select. The next query is going to be somewhat similar to the previous one. So if you don't like doing a lot of typing, you could copy a portion of this. And I'm just going to press Control and C. And I'll click below here. Control and V, as in Victor, will paste. And then I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. We're still using the AP database, but this time we need invoice ID, invoice total, and we need a calculated column, which is going to be called total credits. And so we're going to take the credit total and add it to the payment total. So the field name for credit total, we're going to go ahead and key that in. We'll do the addition sign, and then we'll do payment total. And now to give this column a name, we have to say as, which allows us to give it an alias. And we are going to call this thing total credits. Now, I did not put a space in the name. If I would have put a space in the name, I would either need to enclose it in single quotes, okay, or I could enclose it in brackets. Okay, either way will work. Otherwise, if you don't want the space in between, you don't really have to worry about the brackets and the double quotes, okay? Because you're just giving it an alias. And remember, an alias is going to be the text that actually then displays when you run it. It's going to display at the top of the column. So we've got our calculated column that's going to display as total credits. We've got the other two columns that are required. Invoices is the table. And this time, instead of doing a sort, we are going to filter the data. So we're going to use the where clause, and we want the invoice ID to equal 17. Now, invoice ID is an integer. So if you're dealing with a number and you're checking for equality, you can just key the number in. If it is text, you have to put it in single quotes. Okay, this is not text, it's just a number. So we're keying it in, and at this point we are done with the select command, so we enter a semicolon. And let's go ahead and execute this one. Okay, and so you can see the results, and the only invoice we have is 17 because we did the filter. So I'm going to go ahead and move that closing down. And at this point, it probably is a good idea to save. So we're going to hit the save button. And because this is the first time we're saving, we get the Save As dialog box. And first thing you're probably going to want to do is take note of where it is saving to. If you are doing this at home, saving to your document folder is absolutely fine. Okay? If you're on campus, you do not want to save to the document folder. If you're on campus, you are going to want to scroll down. You should see your Q drive over here on the left, Q as in Queen, and you're going to want to save to the Q drive. Okay? Because if you saved to a document folder and you are on NMC's campus, you are going to lose whatever you save. So for me, saving to documents is fine because I am on my home computer. And I'm going to name this thing Chapter 3 Textbook Assignment. And you'll notice it's going to put SQL at the end, and that is fine because in this file, I pretty much have SQL statements or comments. So we're going to go ahead and save. And this is the document that you are going to end up turning in. So at this point, I've got 3 different select statements, and we are going to add a couple more.